Imagine an aircraft that can stay in the sky for more than 24 hours, watch an entire coastline, identify threats from hundreds of miles away, and do it all without a pilot on board. Now imagine that aircraft quietly changing the balance of modern warfare. In today's video, we're diving into some of the most advanced aircraft-type drones developed in the United States, machines that combine cutting-edge aviation, artificial intelligence, and strategic military thinking. But here's the interesting part. Many people think drones are just small quadcopters or hobby aircraft. In reality, some drones are closer to full-scale airplanes, massive wingspans, jet engines, and missions that last longer than most commercial flights. Today, we'll explore 6 of the most fascinating American aircraft-type drones, how they work, what they're designed to do, and why they represent the future of aviation. And as we go through them, I'd like you to think about something. Which of these drones do you think represents the real future of air power? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your perspectives. So let's begin. The rise of aircraft-type drones. Before we look at the specific models, it's worth understanding why aircraft-type drones became so important. For decades, military aircraft required highly trained pilots, expensive training programs, and constant logistical support. But unmanned systems introduced 3 huge advantages. First, endurance. A drone can stay in the air far longer than a human pilot safely could. Second, risk reduction. Dangerous reconnaissance missions no longer require risking a pilot's life. And third, operational flexibility. Drones can be deployed for surveillance, strike missions, electronic warfare, or intelligence gathering. Today, the United States operates some of the most advanced unmanned aircraft ever built. And one of the most interesting examples begins with a drone designed to operate from an aircraft carrier. Boeing MQ-25 Stingray. Let's start with the Boeing MQ-25 Stingray. At first glance, the MQ-25 might not look particularly dramatic compared to combat drones, but its mission is incredibly important. The MQ-25 is the first operational carrier-based refueling drone developed for the US Navy. That means its job is not primarily to fight, but to extend the range of other aircraft. Here's the challenge the Navy faced. Modern carrier-based fighters, like the F/A-18 Super Hornet, often had to perform aerial refueling missions for other jets. Every time that happened, a valuable fighter aircraft was essentially being used as a flying gas station. The MQ-25 solves that problem. This unmanned tanker can take off from an aircraft carrier, climb to altitude, and refuel multiple aircraft during a single mission. The result? Fighter aircraft can focus on their primary missions, while the drone handles the logistics. But here's something worth thinking about. The MQ-25 represents a subtle but important shift in military aviation. Drones are no longer just surveillance tools. They are becoming core infrastructure in air operations. Do you think support roles like refueling and logistics are the perfect place for drones to dominate first? Let me know your opinion in the comments. I'm curious what you think. General Atomics MQ-9 Reaper. Now let's move to one of the most well-known combat drones in the world, the General Atomics MQ-9 Reaper. If you've followed modern military technology at all, chances are you've heard of the MQ-9. This drone evolved from the earlier MQ-1 Predator, but it's significantly larger, faster, and more powerful. The Reaper is built primarily for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and strike missions. And its capabilities are impressive. The aircraft can remain airborne for over 27 hours, cruising at altitudes around 50,000 feet. That means it can monitor large areas continuously, something traditional aircraft struggle to do efficiently. But the MQ-9 isn't just watching. It can carry precision-guided missiles and bombs, allowing it to engage targets when necessary. This combination of long endurance and precision strike capability made the Reaper a central platform in many US military operations over the past 2 decades. But the technology behind it is just as fascinating. Operators can control the aircraft from ground stations thousands of miles away, using satellite communications to fly missions in completely different parts of the world. Think about that for a moment. A pilot sitting in Nevada could potentially operate an aircraft flying over another continent. That level of remote capability was almost science fiction just a few decades ago. And yet today, it's standard practice. But as drone technology evolves, newer systems are pushing these capabilities even further. General Atomics MQ-20 Avenger wheel. One of those next-generation designs is the General Atomics MQ-20 Avenger. Unlike the propeller-driven MQ-9 Reaper, the Avenger uses a jet engine. That one change dramatically alters its performance. The Avenger can fly much faster, reach higher altitudes, and operate with a more streamlined, stealth-like design. But what really makes it interesting is its internal weapons bay. Instead of mounting weapons externally, the MQ-20 can carry them inside the fuselage. This reduces radar signature and aerodynamic drag. In other words, the aircraft becomes harder to detect and more efficient in flight. The MQ-20 also represents a broader trend in unmanned aviation. Drones are beginning to resemble modern fighter aircraft in capability and design philosophy. And that raises an interesting question. If unmanned aircraft continue improving at this pace, could they eventually replace traditional manned fighters? Or will there always be a role for human pilots in combat aviation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and join the discussion, because the debate between manned and unmanned aviation is only getting more interesting. Northrop Grumman MQ-4C Triton. Next, let's shift our focus from combat missions to maritime surveillance. The Northrop Grumman MQ-4C Triton is one of the most advanced long-range surveillance drones ever developed. Designed for the US Navy, the Triton specializes in monitoring vast ocean regions. And when we say vast, we really mean it. The world's oceans cover more than 70% of the planet, and monitoring them effectively requires aircraft that can fly long distances and remain airborne for extended periods. The MQ-4C Triton was built specifically for this challenge. It can operate at extremely high altitudes, scanning enormous areas with powerful radar and sensor systems. From that vantage point, it can detect ships, track maritime traffic, and identify potential threats. But what makes Triton particularly impressive is its ability to operate in harsh weather conditions. Unlike many drones that must avoid storms, the Triton was designed with reinforced structures and anti-icing systems. That means it can continue its mission even in difficult atmospheric conditions. And for maritime surveillance, reliability like that is essential. Now, here's something interesting to think about. As global shipping traffic increases and geopolitical tensions rise in certain regions, maritime surveillance is becoming more strategically important than ever. Do you think long-range drones like Triton will eventually become the primary guardians of the world's sea lanes? Let me know what you think. Northrop Grumman RQ-4 Global Hawk. Another legendary surveillance drone is the Northrop Grumman RQ-4 Global Hawk. If endurance is the defining feature of aircraft-type drones, the Global Hawk takes that concept to an extreme. This aircraft can fly for over 30 hours continuously. Its wingspan is roughly the same as a Boeing 737, which gives you an idea of just how large this drone really is. From altitudes above 60,000 feet, the Global Hawk can monitor enormous territories using advanced imaging sensors. These sensors can capture high-resolution imagery across thousands of square miles. And because the aircraft stays airborne for such long periods, analysts can track changes and movements over time. In other words, the Global Hawk doesn't just take snapshots, it provides persistent intelligence. And that type of continuous awareness is incredibly valuable for military planning, disaster monitoring, and border surveillance. But there's also a philosophical angle here. Aircraft like the Global Hawk represent a shift toward information dominance. Modern conflicts increasingly depend on who has better data and better situational awareness. Drones like this are essentially flying intelligence platforms, and the more advanced they become, the more critical they are to strategic decision-making. RQ-180, the mysterious drone. Finally, we arrive at one of the most secretive unmanned aircraft ever developed, the RQ-180 style. Unlike the other drones we've discussed, the RQ-180 remains largely classified. Much of what we know comes from defense reports and aviation analysis rather than official public releases. But here's what analysts generally believe. The RQ-180 is a stealth reconnaissance drone designed to operate in heavily defended airspace. That means environments protected by advanced radar systems and surface-to-air missiles. To survive in such conditions, the aircraft likely uses advanced stealth shaping and materials similar to modern stealth bombers. Its mission would be extremely sensitive, penetrating contested airspace, collecting intelligence, and returning data without being detected. In many ways, the RQ-180 represents the next stage of unmanned reconnaissance, a drone designed not just for endurance, but for survivability in the most dangerous environments. And that opens the door to a fascinating discussion. As stealth drones become more capable, could they eventually replace traditional spy planes entirely? Aircraft like the U-2 and SR-71 once defined high-altitude reconnaissance. Now unmanned systems might be taking that role. What do you think? Is the future of strategic surveillance completely unmanned? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in hearing your perspective. The future of aircraft-type drones. Looking at these 6 systems together reveals something important. Aircraft-type drones are no longer experimental technology. They are becoming core components of modern aviation strategy. Each of the drones we discussed fills a specific role: refueling, surveillance, maritime monitoring, stealth reconnaissance, precision strike. And as technology evolves, these capabilities will likely expand even further. Artificial intelligence, autonomous navigation, and advanced sensor fusion are all shaping the next generation of unmanned aircraft. In the coming decades, we may see drones operating in coordinated groups, sharing data in real time, and adapting their missions dynamically. In other words, the skies may increasingly be filled with intelligent autonomous aircraft working alongside, or sometimes instead of, traditional planes. But that leads us to one final question. Final question for viewers. Which of these drones impressed you the most? The carrier-based MQ-25 Stingray? The battle-proven MQ-9 Reaper? The jet-powered MQ-20 Avenger? The ocean-watching MQ-4C Triton? The high-altitude RQ-4 Global Hawk? Or the mysterious RQ-180? And more importantly, do you think the future of aviation is primarily unmanned? Or will human pilots always remain essential? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all, and some of the best discussions happen right there. If you enjoyed this deep dive into advanced drone technology, make sure to stay tuned for more videos exploring the fascinating world of aviation innovation. Because the next generation of aircraft might not even need a cockpit.